This is The Ramsey Show.
Ha, fooled you. Thought it was the Dave Ramsey Show? No, didn't think so. He's not the only one that talks about money. Today, we are going to be talking about money and how it's a big deal and people stress about money and how what a Christian is supposed to do and deal with their money and their finances. That is next.
Church. Family. Theology. News. Entertainment. Evangelism. If it's Christian, then we're talking about it. This is the Mike Charleston Podcast.
All right, this is Mike Charleston, and today I am joined with Sarah.
Hello, everybody.
My wife, and Larry is on the line, I believe.
Larry? What are you doing?
Larry, are you there? Joshua, did you unmute him?
Back.
Ah, there we go. There, Larry, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Joshua didn't unmute you, but that's okay. You're live, and we're here. So
Pam would probably like to have that button.
yeah,
I bet she would.
The mute button.
the mute button. That is funny. Today we are going to be talking about money, and what the Christian's responsibility is in dealing with money. This is such a big subject that it might be a part 2 or a part 3 even, but today we're going to be talking about just a little bit of the philosophy of how to handle money and all that, right, babe?
That's right.
So, but before we do all that, we actually skipped last week, so we apologize. I know in the podcast world that is almost a cardinal sin to skip a week when you've been very faithful, like we have. I hate it when podcasts skip. I'm like, oh, they're on vacation, but actually we had a very good excuse. We had a wedding at our house. Your brother got married. I know we talked about that, but it actually happened, and your family all came.
My whole family came.
They did. Well, almost your whole family, but and they all stayed here for the most part.
Yep.
So that was,
Nice.
yeah, it was a little stressful.
It actually turned out really beautiful, though, considering what we started with.
Well, it was about a 40-person wedding, so it's very small. It was a very small wedding, and so it could be done at our house. We do have some property.
Yeah.
And it was done out there by the pond. And then we had our his reception in our warehouse, which we had to get ready. And you already know all that if you listen to the podcast.
I was going to say, the pictures I saw, it looked amazing.
Yeah, it actually turned out very well.
It was beautiful.
For a warehouse. It was very rustic, but it also had with the black curtains, it really added to it. So
And the lights.
The lights were really cool. Yeah. So it was like, wow, we could pull a wedding off, but with who we are, there is no way it's only going to 40 people show up. So just my family alone, and that would be a lot of people. So not going to happen here.
But we could do maybe some other event with just a few people, and it could be really pretty like that.
And what kind of event would that be? Like a crawfish boil? That wouldn't be very pretty.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that setting quite works for a crawfish boil.
No, the problem is a lot of people we know have kids. So like this didn't really have a lot of small kids or anything, which was actually very pleasant. You didn't have to worry about little kids running around, bumping your drinks around and spilling things and just running around. I love kids, but it was mainly adults here. And so our events are mainly kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
How about a 4th of July party?
Yes, but once again, different kind of atmosphere, and there was a very fine atmosphere.
Yeah,
it was elegant. Let's just put it that way, as elegant as you can in our warehouse.
Right, but it was
No,
fun.
the pictures really looked. It really looked amazing. It looked like something you see in like a movie. They got the kind of the rustic, but yet the fancy touch to it.
Yep.
It looked like that. Yeah.
Yep.
It was nice, and it was nice to have all my family together. It's been, I don't know, at least several years.
Oh, come on.
Since we've all been together at the same place.
No, they were. Well, I don't know. I'd have to think, but maybe you're right. It seems like they were all together at our house recently.
Yeah,
I guess before COVID.
It probably just feels like that to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been
maybe.
So, sorry if any of my family's listening.
Wasn't that your wedding? Right.
That's right.
Yeah,
that was
well,
the
they
last
were all
one.
here for that.
Yes, they were. So other than that, we really haven't had much going on the last couple weeks, but that was such a big event that was taking up a whole bunch of our time.
Right.
And so we just didn't feel like we could do this the right, I don't know what to say, you know,
we weren't going to be able to put into it what needs to go into it to make it good with everything happening.
Not saying that this one's any good, but
well, and my sister stayed here for a whole week, so I
Right.
mean, we had people here to entertain for quite some time. So,
right. And it just was going to be a hard time to record since we record in our living room and just kids and stuff. It's just, we probably could have done it and been fine, but we decided not to. So we apologize if you look forward to the podcast. I assume people look forward to it. And I know how disappointing that is when you wake up and you have a routine and it's not available. It's not refreshing. What's the deal? Are they late? What's going on? And then the next day, it's not there. So we apologize. But hopefully you went back and maybe listened to like the bonus episodes. No one listens to the bonus episodes. Those are the ones that kind of everyone skips. But
well, I did.
Did you? Oh, great.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you guys not only had the wedding, but you had the filming before that as well. So that was a lot going on in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
so.
It was a lot back to back. And but we do have, actually we had 2 emails this week, but one was we're not going to cover on the air. But the other one was from a guy named Larry from Florida.
No way.
Yeah. And
wow, what are the chances?
100% evidently. So it was you, obviously. And so we're going to cover that email later on in the show. But you had a question about our Prayers of Paul episode, and we'll talk about it. And actually, I get to go back and forth with you because I don't get to go back and forth with the emailer right on the air. But since you're usually on the you're on the show, we can do that. So, all right. Well, anything with you, Larry, that you're going on in your life? I know you didn't finish the backsplash, but I told everyone you did. Sorry. I was planning on it. That was I had a few setbacks. And then Andrew's being a slave driver. Yeah, because you're preparing for the competition, right? This 24-hour.
Yeah, it's a 24-hour race. Yeah.
Triathlon.
So I'm a little sore today.
Wow.
But it'll be fun. Hopefully, if I survive.
Yeah, he was doing too many squats.
Ouch.
Too many squats.
Ouch.
So just our heavy squats. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, and deadlift. It's funny. It's kind of a side note, but Andrew, like biking, he's faster than I am, and running, he can run further, and he runs faster than I do.
Yes.
But I can outlift him like any day in any event. So.
Oh yeah. Well, what you're saying is you're stronger.
Just remember that.
That's right.
That's right.
I'm sure you can outlift me too. I'm not.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Not the strongest guy out there.
But
but
could he
all right.
move your ladders?
Well, I don't know. It does take some talent to do that.
Well, I think I could because I move a 24-foot extension ladder every day.
Yeah. You would do it. You would do it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
It's a technique.
Let's go ahead and get out of here. And when we come back, we are going to be covering an issue it's a pretty big issue. It's actually one of the most covered issues in Jesus' ministry, in the Bible, money and possessions and wealth and things like that. And we have such a wide range of beliefs on this. And so we're going to talk about it when we get back.
You're listening to the Mike Charleston Podcast.
All right, we are back, and we are going to be talking money.
Money coming to me now.
Okay, so maybe not that extreme, but we are going to be talking about money. And what do you think about that, babe?
Well, so I started looking up money, and obviously that's a huge topic when you talk about
huge.
Money in the Bible, money in society, money is huge. So I found this quote. It said a new survey from Thriving Wallet A project backed by Arianna Huffington's Thrive Global and Discover found that 90% of Americans say that financial considerations have an impact on their stress levels.
And I didn't have to do a survey to figure that one out.
Yeah, pretty much. So everybody's stressed about money, and money's a big, big, big deal. So.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And our lives pretty much revolve around money.
Yep.
So, 90% of Americans say that financial considerations have an impact on their stress levels. That shouldn't come to a shock. I mean, when you're talking to people out there, that is one of the big problems in marriages are money fights. One of the big stresses is trying to get money so you can live. Money is something that most of us have to think about on a daily basis.
Well, and even in raising kids, it's like you raise your kids and your schooling is all, at least in the world, it's focused on trying to get them to college so they can have a good career, so that they can have lots of money to be able to live their lives and send their kids to big schools and all that. So it just keeps going and going.
It's a terrible cycle.
Seems like a money-making racket.
That's right. It seems like someone knows what they're doing. But it does seem like the whole purpose behind this is like, what's the whole point? That's kind of what we're going to be talking about here is like, what about us as Christians? Should we just go along with this? Right. Are we to be what the world is doing? And I think obviously the answer would be no. But exactly, thank you.
Where's that button?
Right. But how do we get where we are today in the Christian culture today? Are we getting it from the culture? Are we getting it from the scriptures? And so we want to challenge people today to think biblically, to get back to the scriptures, read the Bible. What does God say about the issue? What does Jesus say about the issue? And how do we handle our money? Should we even make money? These are some big deals. When I was saying earlier that this has a wide range, I'm saying that it goes from all the way to like St. Francis of Assisi, where you take a vow of poverty. There's a lot of people out there that think you shouldn't have a savings account. You should just live like a pauper. And then on the other hand, you have people like Kenneth Copeland or Fred Thompson or whoever this guy is, that you should have lots and lots of money and that God wants you to be wealthy. So we have those two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, the other thing, money is one of the main causes of divorce, money issues. And it seems to be like a controlling factor in people's lives, consuming.
Yes. Money is a big revealer. And I know that I don't know if we're going to get into that verse later on where it talks about money is the root of all evil, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the love of money is the root of all evil. Money, yeah, right. It is a big difference there, but we all know that verse. The love of money is the root of all evil. And so, but what is that? Why is that? Is because we want things. We desire stuff. We want possessions. We want lands. We want power. You can get power with money. You can get stuff. So anyway.
Well, a quick question though, but because in that poll you said that 90% of people, was it
stress about money?
Yeah. Why?
Because nobody has enough.
Right. Well, because guess what? The people who don't stress about money have money. So, which reminds me, before we move on, there was a movie that we watched, a Christian movie called What If. So it's not necessarily a great one, but it's all right. But the guy, he ends up it's like an alternate universe. He ends up marrying this girl that. It's kind of like a Wonderful Life type situation. Well, anyway, he's a pastor, but he doesn't know anything about being a pastor. He makes money. So here was his message.
God, he wants us to have what we need, right? Noah, look, there's Noah. He had an ark. Noah had an ark. And, he couldn't have afforded to build the ark without money, so God obviously wants us to have money. And God wants us to be happy. So, try to make more money. So
there you go.
You can buy things, and then you'll be happy.
So yeah, we kind of laugh at that. But in
sound logic there.
some people actually really believe this. Now that's a over exaggeration in that part, but something in that when he was preaching that. Now it's silly. It's supposed to be kind of funny. It's a lighthearted moment of the movie, but the part that way he's talking about Noah. And well, Noah needs money to build the ark because you got to have a Home Depot, right? But this is the problem here. We live in 2022, and we like to project back into the scriptures in the first century. So we think of our problems that we have today, our issues that we have today, that they've always been around. You know, they've always been here. And they haven't been. So we have to go the other way. We have to look from the scriptures outward to 2022. And so guess what? They didn't have Walmarts. They didn't have Home Depots. They didn't have all this stuff that we have. We are such a greedy and consuming nation. Our culture, the Americans, are the most consuming, most trash. Like when I say trash, I'm not talking about like in a bad way, but it is bad. But you know what I'm saying? It's not like trashy, but it's like we throw away the most stuff than anybody in the face of the earth.
Wasteful.
We're wasteful. Yes, thank you. That's a good way of putting it. We're the most wasteful people. We're the most consuming people. We're the most greedy, and that's saying a lot because the Bible says a lot about this issue. So it's been an issue throughout all of history, and here we are, one of the greediest people on the face of the earth ever. Yeah. That's sad.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that the Bible does have a lot to say about money.
How much does it have to say?
Well, according to Forbes.com.
So not according to the Bible. We're not going there quite yet. Maybe after we get back, we'll get all the verses.
Okay. So according to Forbes.com, it says money and possessions are the second most referenced topic in the Bible. Money is mentioned more than 800 times.
Now, that's according to Forbes.com. Wow. So more than 800 times it's mentioned. So I don't know, like, how they get this. I know we know that it's mentioned a whole bunch. Money, wealth, possessions, all these things are mentioned a good number of times. But according to Forbes, which is a money magazine if you're unaware, they say it's the second most referenced topic. I was curious what number one was.
Yeah, I was trying to look that up, and I wasn't finding easy answers.
What do you think that is, Larry?
That's a good question. I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, other than... Well, I mean, God himself.
Right. They said other than God, because I think
I was thinking
God
faith.
wins.
That faith might be one spoken of, but maybe not. Maybe forgiveness.
I felt like faith was big.
I don't know. But, I feel like I'm playing the Family Feud and we're not getting the number one answer.
Well, maybe some of our listeners could write in and tell us what they think is the number one.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go. Talk at fellowshipofbelievers.org. That's talk at fellowshipofbelievers.org. A funny story about that email is that we were talking back and forth, and I was texting you, and you're like, should I email you? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead and email. And you're like, what's the email address again? I'm like, Larry.
I know.
Larry?
I'm so bad.
What are you doing?
Like it was, you should know what the email address is at this point.
I know. It's funny because when you said it, I'm like, duh, I knew that's what it was. But I just went blank, and I should have just listened to an older podcast. And
whatever. It's
anyway.
talk at fellowshipofbelievers.org. So tell us what you think. Anyways, we have another one from Forbes.com.
It says the writers of the Bible anticipated the problems we would have with money and possessions. There are more than 2,000 references, he says. Our whole culture now is built on the premise that we have to have more money and more stuff to feel happy and secure. Public storage is the poster child for what's wrong with America. We have too much stuff because we've bought into the myth fabricated by Wall Street and Madison Avenue that more stuff equals more happiness.
So you said this was from Forbes.com.
Yeah.
It's okay. So I thought someone might quoted Forbes in an article they were writing. But either way, this is from Forbes. And we're in a sad place when Forbes is preaching to us.
I know.
And isn't that weird?
That was very weird. But it makes a very good point, though, that over 2,000 references. And as we were studying for this, we had to leave a lot of the scriptures on the cutting floor. So maybe in the next episode, we'll cover some of those. We're not really going to be talking about giving and all that right now. And that's a very important part of money. So that'll probably be either next week or another episode. But Forbes is talking about how our culture is built on the premise that we have more money and more stuff to feel happy and secure. But we're not.
It's funny. They mentioned the storage things.
Yes.
Yeah. In our area, they are building, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3 three new ones that are huge, and we already have several in the area. So I'm like, why do people have all this stuff, and why are you putting it in a storage unit that you're never going to go to?
No,
why don't you just get rid of it?
It's crazy. Well, there's because then it goes into the landfills, and we just add up those stats. You know, we're wasteful. But we have this idea that we need stuff. We need stuff to make us happy, and in some ways it does. I mean, let's be fair. We buy some stuff that makes us happy for a season. And then we want to get rid of it and get the newest things. And so many people get caught up with the fads and the fashions of this world. The clothes. Oh, this is not cool anymore. I need to get a new shirt, new pants, new whatever, new car, whatever. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, all right, babe, why don't you go to this next one here from wealthwithapurpose.com. Never heard of it, but whatever.
In fact, there are more than 2,300 verses on money, wealth, and possessions. Jesus spoke about money roughly 15% of his preaching and 11 out of 39 parables. It was his most talked about topic.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that growing up my whole life, but to see that like 11 out of 39 parables, 15% of his preaching was talking about money and possessions. And to be honest, you think about first century Christians and believers and Jews and Romans, like there's no way they were as bad as we were, right? There's just no way. But I mean, at the heart of the matter, it is bad. It doesn't matter if you have lots of things. The whole point is that it's a heart issue. So even in the first century, I'm sure greed was still around. Of course, greed was around.
Well, one of the commandments was not to envy.
Yep. Right. Yep. That's a good point.
And envy is just wanting what other people have. So it's that desire to want more than what you already have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, why does the Bible have so many verses on money? And I think this next passage kind of answers that.
Matthew 6:19 through 21. Why don't you go ahead, babe? This is a pretty popular one.
Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
There's the answer, right? There's where your treasure is, there's your heart. So money reveals your heart and who you really are. Yeah. I heard a guy one time say, if you want to know where your Christianity is, just look at your checkbook. And that's when everybody's like, oh, come on, man, oh, really? But honestly, it's not a bad test. I mean, it's a revealer of where our interests are, where our possessions lie. Are we thinking heavenly? Are we thinking earthly? Now, let's be fair. We all have to think earthly on some level because we live on the earth. Right. And we do have to have a place to live, and we do have to wear some clothes, and we do have to eat. But we don't always have to go out to eat. We don't have to buy the most up-to-date clothes. We don't have to have the biggest homes or the fanciest cars. And so a lot of this is a heart check of where does this all come from? Unfortunately, I think a lot of this comes from the commercialization that we have in America. The TV came along. We'll get into the Industrial Revolution, but the TV came along. The TV is a perfect vehicle to give culture. And when you have a commercial or whatever it is, where you have everyone sitting there watching the TV program, and then it goes to a commercial, and it's showing that this kid is just turning 16, and his dad just bought him a brand new car, and it's a car ad. Yeah. Well, that you see that over and over. Well, guess what? Your 16-year-old's going to expect. Hey, is that a thing? We can get cars for our birthday?
And that's why we don't watch TV.
That's right.
That's right.
So that's why we skip the commercials, not because of the bikinis, even though that's part of it. But we don't want them to be materialistic and to want. And if you don't think commercials affect you, you're a fool. There's a reason why
Right.
they have commercials. They
Yeah.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Jeremiah's a good example of this. He listens to podcasts, and he gets home and he listens to this podcast, and all of a sudden he's talking about this thing, and I'm like, was that advertised on whatever program? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you want to check it out? Huh? And he's like, oh, it sounds interesting. I'm like, they make it sound interesting.
that's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
works.
Next thing you know, you're buying it, and then you're like, what did I get this for? And so anyway.
No, there's a whole industry, the marketing industry. They studies and stuff on how to market products to reach the most people to get you to buy their stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, well, Riley and I were talking about this the other night. Commercials. You hear these things over and over again, and you start remembering them. And I said, okay, I'll give you an example. I said I did this little jingle like, bum 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 bum.
Yep, McDonald's.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Because those commercials work. The advertising works.
Absolutely. Yep, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm loving that, but whatever. It gets in your head.
But no.
There's a reason why they do it. It works.
Yeah, and it's not like McDonald's has super great food, but yet
That's right.
people go there all the time
Yeah.
They
Pretty
because
do.
of the marketing. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So
All right, so let's go ahead, Josh. Well, actually, do you want to take a break now, or let's go ahead and take a break because we're going to get into these 5 points, and we have a lot of Bible verses here.
Oh,
so
yeah.
why don't we take a quick break and then hold that thought, Larry? I know you wanted to
Yep.
say something, so we'll start with your thought.
The Mike Charleston Podcast. The Mike Charleston Podcast.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to the podcast today. If you want to be a part of the show, go ahead and email us at talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. That is talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. Leave us a comment, a question, whatever you want to do. Please participate with the show. Thank you. All right, we are back, and right before we took that little break there, Larry was about to say something, so hopefully Larry's still on the line there.
Yep. I don't know if this is going to fit under point number 1 or point number 2. It might be both.
Okay.
But that passage in Matthew where the guy, he's increased in goods, and he's like, what am I going to do with this? And he builds bigger barns.
Right. And tonight his
And-
life is demanded of him.
Yeah. Like all your stuff,
Yeah.
what good is it going to do you? You
We can't
stored
take it
up.
with us. That is that's a good point. We can't take it with us. So what are we here for? That's kind of the philosophical question is like, what exactly are we here for? What are we spending our money on? And we get stuck in this mouse trap. Now, I might go off here on it a little bit, so please bear with me here. But we're in this mouse trap where we don't even think about things. It's just our way of life is our way of life, and we don't question it. Well, as good Christians, guess what we do? We question things. Is our culture godly? Is it what we're supposed to do? Am I supposed to go off to college just because people go off to college? Am I supposed to get a big house just because people get big houses? Should I buy a brand new car because people have brand new cars? No. The question is no. Like, what are we here for? We're here for a purpose. We're here to live modestly. And modest doesn't always mean dress, even though that's part of it.
Right.
But it's a lifestyle. It's how I conduct myself, whether it's in speech, whether it's in dress, whether it's in how I present myself. I'm not supposed to be flashy and showy, and that includes my houses, my cars, my dress. And so that is a big part of this. So our culture has really, really changed throughout the years, and we've neglected the scriptures, and now we just do what we think is right and by our own minds, which is a problem. And we just seek after money because we have to have a job, we have to live somewhere, we have to do all these things, right? But the problem is in that process, you get dissatisfied, you get discontent, and you want bigger houses, you want better cars because, well, I'm doing well, I deserve this. And we start making more money, and then it's like, well, I need more money, so then I need my wife to start working because we need to put our kids through good schools, but maybe we should question and challenge why we're even doing anything. I was talking to a lady this week. I was doing a job, and she was just reminiscing on her husband, and he passed away, and he was just a good man. And she was bragging on him, and that was really, really cool to hear. But the one thing she had a bunch of kids, and she was like, no one knows how to raise a lot of kids these days. And I was like, well, actually, I have 7 myself. And she's like, oh, my goodness, how do you do it? It's so expensive. I said, well, actually, it's just a matter of making a sacrifice. We decided early on, because we're Christians, we decided early on that there are certain things that are important. And the certain things that are important are, for one, Christ. Christ is going to be the center of everything. And then number 2, family is important. And then after that, everything else just falls into place. All my decisions are based on those 2 things. And so if I have that in the right order, I knew right away when I was making $8 an hour when we got married, and I'm not like 80 years old, by the way. So, I was making $8 an hour. And actually, when we had our second child, Rebecca, I was making $8 an hour, and Sarah was home. I declared early on that she was not going to work. It's not her job to work. I'm going to work and provide, and she's going to be a homemaker. And we agreed to that. And we believe that's a biblical roles and concepts. I know that's foreign to the American way of life, but we were dedicated to that. And that means we had to make a lot of sacrifices. We had to give up on things and important things, fancy new clothes, fancy furniture, new houses. Of course, we had a new house, but it was in the ghetto. And, so we once you knew that this is the how we wanted to do things, all those decisions came really, really easy.
Yeah.
And I know we're supposed to get into point 1, but I felt like we needed to say that, because when you decide, hey, and you guys kind of went through the same thing, Larry, where you decided the same things and had to make certain sacrifices, right?
Yeah, in fact, it was funny because Pam and I were both working, but she was working at one job, and the position she had, they were closing it out, and so she wasn't going to have a job. And so we decided then, because we always decided if we're going to have kids, we wanted her home with the kids. So we said, okay, this is our opportunity to get prepared for the day when we do have kids. It was probably 3 years later that we had our first child.
Sure.
But we made that sacrifice that I was going to be the one working and providing, and she was going to be. So it was a transition because we went from 2 incomes down to 1, but we didn't live lavishly anyway. We didn't have a lot of expenses. It was something that we decided, and we had that time period to adjust to get used to it. So it was important to us.
Yeah, but the preparing and actually not making a lot of money actually was working for our benefit. And at the time, like if you would have told me that, I would have been like, you know what, making $50 an hour would have been better. But honestly, it helped discipline myself. It helped us come up with a plan. It helped us to realize, no, we don't need these things. What is more important is God's plan, is knowing what he would want us to do and having my wife stay home with the kids and me go out and try to make things better. And so I worked hard, and I was very fortunate and blessed to have a boss that I did, and he blessed us. And it's not like we made a whole bunch through our life. We never have, but God has provided, and God has been good to us. And a lot of that, honestly, is you have to make decisions in life, and there should be no struggling Christians in America financially, because the decisions you make should. I remember I was in Bible college, and I was tempted to write a paper because I'm not a prosperity teacher. I don't believe in that gospel, the prosperity gospel. I think it's nonsense. But I do believe I prosper because, like Psalms 1, he's like a tree planted. Planted by the streams of water, and his leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers, or something like that. And I believe in prosperity because God prospers those. But it's not all about money prospering. It's my work, the things that I put my hands to, is prospering. Anyways, when I was in Bible college, I thought about doing my paper on prosperity. that by the very nature of getting saved, you start to prosper. Because in our culture, when you get saved, chances are you either smoke or drink or you throw your money on entertainment and you go to the mall and shop around. I'm like, well, when you become a Christian, you give up all that stuff, not because you have to, but because you are totally unconcerned about those things. You are now a citizen of heaven and you are just camping. And so we are totally unconcerned about stuff. And so by the very nature of things, we should prosper. But I decided not to write the paper on that. So anyway.
There's a teaser. You should write it now.
Well, maybe we got to do number one.
You all right there?
All right. So
I hope so.
Sarah just had a coughing fit. So anyway, I guess that's her way of getting us back on track. We haven't even started yet. Okay. So why don't we go ahead with number one? And you can don't be afraid to drink on the air. I mean, don't not like that, but we got water.
Okay.
Start with number one.
Okay, is your hope or trust in your wealth?
That is question number one. Is your hope or trust in your wealth? Now, when you ask American Christians this question,
They're going to say no.
of course.
Yeah.
No, of course I don't put my trust in my wealth and what riches and all that. Well, let's read some Bible verses here. Proverbs 23, 4-5. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thine own wisdom. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Isn't that true? Riches, I was to say witches, but riches, they just go away. Man, they come, they go. It is a true thing. I think, Larry, you were talking about that before we started, about millionaires, people, lottery winners.
Yeah.
Doesn't
yeah,
last.
most of them that end up that win big, they end up broke in just a matter of a few years.
That's sad.
Yeah, that is sad.
Yeah.
Okay, Proverbs 11:28.
All right, it says, he that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch.
Now, I know most Americans right here would be like, well, I don't trust in my riches.
Yeah.
But they kind of do, honestly, if you really think about it. They talk about their portfolios, their 401k, which is the same thing. They talk about their savings accounts. They have their plans all set up. They do the Dave Ramsey plan, which is actually a good plan to do. But, they put their trust in their ability to have money and riches.
But the righteous flourishing as a branch, that's like what you talked about with Psalm 1.
Yep.
So,
Yep, his leaf does not wither. Wither.
All right, the next one is Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, he that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity.
That is a true saying. I mean, that you talk about people like, what is enough?
Yeah.
What's that famous saying by that billionaire? What is enough?
I was
One more
just gonna
dollar.
say, yeah. Was it Rockefeller?
I think so. It might
Or
have
one
been.
of those guys, or Carnegie? Yeah.
Somebody who
How
had
much
a
is
lot.
enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They asked him how much is enough. He said just a little bit more.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you love abundance, you'll never be we're not satisfied. I think it's a heart condition if you're not satisfied. And we'll get to that point, about our heart in this issue. But why don't we go to First Timothy has a lot to say about money. And First Timothy actually is one of the qualifications for an elder is that he not be covetous and not have a love of money. I don't know if it says love of money. But here we have First Timothy 6:17-19.
It says, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy, that they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life.
So obviously there were rich people. I know we were going to get into the common, the communal living in Acts, and see all the rich people. Well, that was that very specific church in Jerusalem. We'll probably get into that next week. But there are rich people in the church, and it's actually almost a curse to be rich, and. But you can't. Once again. It's not a sin to actually have things. Like if you create something and all of a sudden you make a lot of money, it's not your fault that you're making a lot of money. Right. Now, what you do with that money is are you eager to are you a giver? Are you willing to communicate, ready to distribute, and willing to communicate? And when we're not talking about communicate, we're not talking about like what we're doing right now.
Right.
It's not saying get ready to do a podcast, but are you willing to give?
Yeah.
And laying up in store for themselves for a good foundation, good works. Are you willing to use your money for good things and not just for yourselves?
Another thing, like trusting in your riches. If you build up your portfolio and you all of a sudden or you make a widget and you become a multi-millionaire, but you lose it all, if that devastates your life, then you're trusting in those riches.
Sure.
Like there's been stories during the Great Depression of so many people they jumped out of the building because they just all their wealth and they were trusting in that, and it was when it was gone, their life was devastated. It was over. That was their whole life, and so we see that that back was it 2008, the housing market crash and all that, and a lot of people lost everything.
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it devastated their life. But I mean, we had a business and it failed. I'm not a great businessman, but and we ended up with a lot of debt. And it was like I don't know. It was quite a bit. It was like $35,000.
You don't have to say numbers on the air.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but it took us a long time to pay it. We worked. It took probably 6-7 years to pay.
Wow.
To dig out of that?
Yeah, but, partly it was my fault, bad business decisions and stuff like that, but lesson learned. But I wasn't devastated. I was, obviously humbled.
Right.
And we learned a lot from it as well. But when we lost stuff, we didn't have to file bankruptcy. We didn't lose our house, things like that. But, it was tough, but I was like, okay, so we're working to pay back debt. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not the end of the world. I didn't lose my life, and I didn't lose any of my kids. Another funny story real quick, but it's about trusting in things. We started raising chickens when we moved to this house, and we got pretty good at it. But one time we did our first big batch. We did like 75 chickens, and that's what we were going to eat off of. And we were trusting in that a little bit, but anyway, somebody gave us a freezer, and the freezer was a great freezer. It worked great, except for if you closed the door too quickly, it would kind of pop open. You had to close it slowly and hold it.
Uh-oh.
Well, I was supposed to put a latch on it.
Someone was neglectful.
And we processed all these birds, put them up, and the freezer is on the back porch, which we don't go there very often. And anyway, the door didn't get closed all the way. Pam called me. Yeah, it was probably a week later.
Yikes.
And she's crying on the phone. And I'm thinking, my first thought was, one of the kids are in the hospital or worse. And that was where I went. And when I said, are the kids okay? She goes, yeah. I said, okay, then what's the problem? She said, well, all the chicken, the door didn't close, and we lost almost all of it. I said, well, once I realized it wasn't one of the kids or her, it was like, okay, well, we can replace the chicken.
So remember that when you call your husband and something bad happened, just make it sound like one of the kids died, and then they won't be so upset.
Yep.
Well, no, it's the heart thing is like, okay, all my stuff can be replaced. It's not that important. The things that are important to me anyway, I can't replace.
Right.
I can't replace one of my kids. I can't replace. I was telling you earlier, like in the house, if somebody came in and robbed everything, I'd be like, that's an inconvenience, a bummer. The thing that is most important to me and Pam and I is we have some photo albums that she did when the kids were little, and those are, to me, very important because we can't replace them.
Right,
so,
right. That reminds me of when we flooded, and you actually wrote an article about it, and people who read it were just kind of shocked at how we could have that attitude through it all. And it is kind of a
Yeah.
reality check that we lost a lot of stuff and almost lost a house, and it was just a lot of work to get it back up. Now, not to say that we didn't try to save stuff. We saved our books and, we were throwing stuff upstairs.
Right, yeah.
But we don't want to be totally wasteful. But, at the end, it was just like, well, this is what happened. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so you pick up the pieces and move on.
Yeah, and you didn't lose any of your kids.
Right.
You guys
Right.
are safe and healthy and all that. So everything else is replaceable.
That's the thing, you realize when you go through something like that it's all just
Yeah.
stuff, and it really just doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Right.
And
So-
it's a reality check.
Yeah, you're not trusting in those riches.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure. Okay, so that is number one. We are moving
Yeah,
along
sorry.
like a herd of turtles here. But is your hope or trusted in your wealth? What about number two? You got another question there, babe.
Yep. Do you have enough? Are you content?
Well, this is a huge one. It's kind of like what
Yeah.
we were just talking about. Are we content? Do we want more? Now, I'll be honest with you. I think we all struggle with this at some point. When Apple brings out a new computer, I'm like, oh, the Mac Studio. My goodness, this one will fit everything that we need to do with
Yeah,
the
it'd really
video
help
editing.
us. Yeah,
And
we need it.
Yeah, that's right. We need and need. Need is a funny word.
Need, you're right.
But do we have enough? Are we content? Now, this next passage we're going to read, it's 1 Timothy 6, 1 through 11. We're trying to figure out where to pare it down, and we just couldn't. But once again, this is 1 Timothy, and Timothy says a good bit about money, and this is a good passage. So sorry for the length of it, but go ahead, babe.
Okay. Let as many servants as are under the yoke count their own masters worthy of all labor, that the name of God and his doctrine be not blasphemed.
It's honor.
Oh, what did I say?
You said labor.
Oh, okay. And that they have believing masters, let them not despise them because they are brethren, but rather do them service because they are faithful and beloved partakers of the benefit. These things teach and exhort. If any man teach otherwise and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of our Lord Jesus Christ, and to the doctrine which is according to godliness, he is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railings, evil surmisings, perverse disputings of men of corrupt words, and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw thyself. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But thou, O man of God, flee these things, and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness.
Wow, I mean that verse. Right, I mean you could preach on that one for a while. There's a lot in that section. There is, godliness with contentment is great gain. Where was it right there before? Perverse disputings, but we brought nothing. Okay, right here, verse 5. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself. Now, there is a common belief. I don't have the source right here, but during Jesus' time, the Pharisees, Sadducees, the teachers of the law, and all, they had a teaching basically that it's throughout the Old Testament too, that if you were wealthy, you were godly. Like that was a sign of God's blessing on your life, and which kind of makes sense, like, hey, God blesses his children, right? And so, he's got some stuff, he must be godly. And so they would look up to these people that were wealthy and rich. Well, here Paul is talking about kind of the opposite, that the wealthy have troubles in this world, and they actually have temptations in this world that are much different. And he's actually saying godliness with contentment is great gain, not the money part. Contentment is the part. Are you content? Now, how would you define content?
Well, I would say it's being satisfied with what you have.
Right. Which begs the question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, no, go ahead, because you might answer what I was, or you might go where I'm going.
If you're content with the car, why do you need a new car? if you're content. And I said, actually, that is a very good question. Now, I drive my cars until they're dead, and then I need a new car. Yeah. And then when I get a new car, I mean a new old car. But there are certain things that just need to be replaced that are not really working anymore. I get that. But the concept of being content, there are way too many people out there that they need the newest gadget, like I have an iPhone 12. I need the newest one. I still got an iPhone 7 for crying out loud. And I might have to upgrade because they don't support it anymore. That's the only reason I'd have to upgrade. And don't think I don't get tempted about getting the newest iPhones, and I'm a human. But why do we fall into that trap? We want to feel like we have accomplished something. Maybe we feel like we're more spiritual if we have. Maybe people will pay attention to us because we know what we're doing, because I have money, I have possessions, I have things. It's a wicked trap. I'm sure I didn't cover what you were going to say.
Well, you kind of a little bit, but
okay.
I was going to say, where does contentment and achievement, like if, for example, your job, are you content? Is it content to stay where you're at, or should you try to work for advancement and improve your financial standing?
Yeah, it depends on a lot of things, right? Once again, does it fit your worldview? Are you going to have to work a lot of overtime? Are you going to sell your soul to this company? There's a lot of things to consider that. But if you have your proper worldview, I think everything kind of fits in place. I don't want to be working at a job that makes me work a lot of overtime. We'll get into that here shortly, but I don't think we have to worry about that anytime soon, right, babe? So, why don't you? We got a quote here from Benjamin Franklin, and I know you like Benjamin Franklin quotes.
I do.
And so, what's this one?
It's content makes poor men rich. Discontent makes rich men poor.
Absolutely. And we have one from an unknown author, so I'll claim it.
Okay. All right, Mike Charleston.
All right.
Contentment is the greatest form of wealth.
Yes, you like quotes. Sarah, we just get her book of quotes and she likes it. Now this quote is on our wall in our house.
Yeah.
And it says what?
It says the secret to having it all is knowing you already do.
That's right. That the more important things in life, you already have that stuff. The things that money can't buy are more important. You already have that. I have love. I have joy. Those are the things that bring happiness. Money and possessions, they bring happiness. I'm not going to lie to you. Getting a new TV or getting a new computer or getting a new phone or whatever whatever you're into, getting a new car, it makes you feel good for a while. Yeah. But that same person that bought a car a year later hates his car. It's like, man, I wish I didn't get this one. I wish I would have got the other one. I wish I got. Like, that is not content at all. A vehicle is to get you from point A to point B. Why don't you just get a decent car to get you there? Why does it have to be fancy? Why do you have to have all the bells and whistles? And I'm not saying you can't have any of those things, but we get so dissatisfied with what we have. And we need to have a heart change and be satisfied with, be thankful for what you have. There are so many people in this world that don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. It comes from the heart of being thankful. Contentment, I think contentment and thankfulness go hand in hand. Because if you're not content, you're probably not going to be thankful either.
Pretty much.
Absolutely.
And if you're not content with what you have, getting more is not going to satisfy
As
you.
Ecclesiastes showed us, that's exactly what's you can keep consuming and it's not going to be enough. You want more.
Right. More. Gimme.
Kind of leads into that.
Yeah, let's try to do number 3.
What do we know of greed and debt?
What do we know of greed and
contentment?
debt? Yes, greed and debt. I mean, this is debt. So at the beginning of the show, we did the Dave Ramsey thing, and I'm all for Dave Ramsey. Get out of debt, right? I don't think Christians should be in debt. There's only a few exceptions, and we're not going to really get into those right now. We are getting close to the end, and we're not going to get anywhere near to our 5 questions, so we definitely have to have a part 2 in this. But what do we know of greed and debt? Why don't we start with Proverbs 15:27?
He that is greedy of gain troubleth his own house, but he that hateth gifts shall live.
Yes, this is a funny one. So he that is greedy for gain troubleth his own house.
Makes me think of Madame Blueberry.
That wasn't Madame Blueberry, if you know the Veggie Tales. But he that hateth gifts shall live. Now, Sarah quoted this weekend, which was hilarious, because her family was here, and her family didn't do anything for the holidays for us, and they usually do things for the kids. And so they wanted to give us a family gift, but the thing that they bought was on back order. And we were like, it's
all good. We don't need anything.
it's like almost April. Yeah. Just don't worry about it. We probably even forgot that you didn't get us anything. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Well, she decided, no, we're going to get you something. So she went out and got us a brand new TV. And I'm like, we don't even really watch it all that much. But you know what? When we do, I'd like to be able to see it, and it's nice, and I'm not complaining. I'm very content with the new TV. But before she went to go get it, Sarah was talking about, why don't you say it? You were saying this verse, right?
I did. I said that verse, and I looked it up and read it to my mom, and said, it says, but he that hateth gifts shall live. So I said, I'm going to have to hate your gift. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're just going to hate all the gifts. But it reminds me of, if you watch Fiddler on the Roof and Tevye, there's this radical comes in from Kiev, and he's telling them that you need to think about the world out there. They're he's a communist or something like that. And he said, riches are the world's curse. And he was like, Lord, curse me with it, and may I never recover. So Proverbs 22:7.
The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender.
Yeah, this one is a good. Everyone who listens to Dave Ramsey knows this one, right?
Pretty
This is,
Yeah.
if you listen to Dave Ramsey, this one we know. Now, he doesn't use the King James, but you get the point. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. We are a nation that is in servitude. You think about.
Yeah.
Everything that we've just been talking about, you have to go to your job. You have to work 40 plus hours a week. Why? Because you're in debt. You're in slavery to the Bank of America, to Chase, whatever the banks are out there. Yeah. When you are debt free, you are free from that. Now, you still need to use money. Don't get me wrong. But you don't need to work all those hours. You don't need to work the weekends, and, you have to push and try to get a better job and make more money.
Which brings stress, because all those bills come in the mail and things happen, and you can't work for whatever reason for a time, and
absolutely.
The stress goes up. So
yeah, servant to the lender, so that we still have a bunch of servants in this country that are serving the banks, and they don't have a problem with it. They're like, nope, I don't mind my payments. And that's I don't think that we as Christians should be in debt. I don't think we should be borrowers, except for a few exceptions. And I think like a mortgage is one of those. But even in the Bible, that was a curse almost. It was it was a bad thing. It was looked as a bad thing. So if you can at all, you young people that are listening to this, we didn't understand these things. So we had to teach our kids these things. Now we are now debt free. It took us a while to get there, and had some natural disasters help us along. But we are debt free, and it's not like a brag and pat on the back, but we had to work really hard to get out of it, and we had to push to our kids that you guys can start on the right foot. We didn't exactly start on the right foot. And it's not that we had a lot of debt, but we had
no money.
We had no money, yes.
None.
So anyway, let's move on to Luke 12:15.
And he said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth.
Ouch.
With the credit card and stuff, it's all in the marketing too. You see the advertisements. There's a popular one. What is it? What's in your wallet?
Oh, yeah, Capital One.
It's Capital One.
Yep. What's in your wallet?
And they make it sound so good and so fun.
Yes, well, because it
is. You
is.
have it all right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't even have to think of the consequences, and you can just go and, hey, everybody, drinks are on me, woohoo!
Right.
I'm buying everybody's meals, and then a month later you have to pay for it. You're like, oh man, I forgot about that.
And there was a commercial. I don't even know what they're advertising, but it was this guy going around his house. He has a big fancy house, and he's got his big riding lawnmower, and a new car. And he's like, "And how do I pay for it all? I'm in debt up to my eyeballs."
Okay, it's true. Yeah, there's a lot of aspirationals out there. I was talking to you earlier about that. There's a books that I read. I forget the guy's name. It's probably right behind me somewhere. Yeah, it's back there. He died in a car wreck, but he wrote some books. He studied millionaires, and he did The Millionaire Mind, The Millionaire Next Door, and Stop Acting Rich. And it was his idea that actually true millionaires would be hard to tell that they were actually millionaires because they don't live like people think they do. It's the aspirationals that aspire to be millionaires that think you have to live in big houses and fancy cars. And the number one vehicle that millionaires bought, believe it or not, was a Ford F-150. And that's the number one car for millionaires. And that's not what you would think. You would be like, oh, Lexus,
Right.
BMW, Jaguar, Beamer, or I already said Beamer. Those type of cars, you would think that,
Yeah.
but it's not the case. So, okay,
It's like
go ahead.
Sam Walton, he drove an old pickup truck.
Oh yeah, Sam Walton, the guy who started Sam's Club, right?
Walmart. Yeah, Walmart.
Oh yes,
But
that thing, yeah, Walmart, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But well, greed and the debt, they're kind of the same because it goes back to contentment and thankfulness.
Right. If you can't wait to get something,
Yeah,
you just want it right now.
or be thankful for what you have and you
Yep.
want it right now. Then yeah. So
And there's been
anyway.
plenty of times that we've been tempted. I've never, I know this is going to shock people. I'm a 45-year-old man. I have never owned a credit card in my life. And people are like, how have you done that? I said, well, one, I tried to get one and they refused. So it wasn't because I was so righteous. There was a couple times I wanted a free t-shirt and I got rejected. I'm like, what? Dead dogs get credit cards. Come on, man. But after I got rejected a few times, I got convicted about it. And I said, you know what? I don't want a credit card. I have never, well, I shouldn't say never. I didn't have a credit score when I went to get our mortgage for our house. And so they had to do this weird, with the old-fashioned way of getting a loan for our house. And when we got a loan, we tried to get the least amount. The bank said that we could get X amount. And I'm like, I'm glad the bank thinks that.
Right.
But the bank doesn't have to pay the note.
Yeah.
And no, I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly.
So one more verse on this one. Let's do Romans 13:8.
Owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law.
So to owe no man anything. Now, I know people are like, oh, you're stretching a little bit, but not really. We shouldn't owe people anything, but to love. And that even talks about our giving. If I don't borrow money and I don't lend money, so if someone asks me money, if I feel like I'm supposed to give them money, I'm not going to lend them the money. I'm going to be like, it's a gift. Now, if they want to pay it back, that's up to them, and I just see it as a gift to me back. But if I have that attitude of just giving it to them, then I don't have to worry about it when they don't pay me back, because that adds a lot more stress to the relationship. And actually, Dave Ramsey taught that. So I actually learned that from him. And I thought, you know what? That's actually a good attitude, that if I'm going to let go of the money, then I'm going to let go of it for good. And that's going to be, they're going to want it. Now, if they turn around, and someone did this to me early on in my life, that I gave them some money and they actually paid me back. And I was like, that's fine. They blessed me back. But I wasn't expecting it back, because once you start expecting it back, then that kind of ruins the relationship in some level.
Well, we know expectations.
They ruin relationships.
relationships.
Yep. All right, we got done with 3 of them. Yeah, we are. We don't really have time for anything. Yeah, well, we should go. We should get out of here, and we'll be right back to do the email.
The Mike Charleston Podcast. The Mike Charleston Podcast.
All right, we didn't actually get through all the things that we wanted to, but that's all right. We have next week, and we can finish it off and maybe even add to it. to like the giving part and all that. But money is a huge, huge issue. And so if you have a question about money, I'm sure there are going to be questions. Feel free. Please email us at talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. But we did have an email from Larry in Florida last episode. He had a question.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah, I wonder who that is.
I got something to say.
Yeah, that was you, Larry. You got something to say. So I'm going to read it. Or do you want to read it, babe? Why don't you go ahead, read, and I'll stop when I want to talk about something. So Larry, he's on the line with us, so we can actually talk about it. But go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had a chance to watch the podcast today instead of just listen. That was nice. Wish I was a part of this one. This got me thinking how in Christianity phrases are often used without regard to the meaning. In this instance, it is our prayer life, as if it is somehow separate and mystical.
That is the quote-unquote our prayer life. You know, that's what we were saying, our prayer life. Okay, go ahead.
Jesus never mentioned his prayer life, neither did Paul or any other apostle for that matter. Are we to have a prayer life that is different than our carnal life? What if someone were to say, well, my fishing life is doing great. Now I need to work on my family life.
Okay, so this is where it got funny for me because I've heard someone exactly say that. So as I was reading that, I was like, well, actually, I know someone who has actually said that exact phrase where my fishing life is doing well, but my family life. But I guess go ahead and finish, and then we'll talk about it.
Another example related to this is my prayer closet. You might be thinking I'm being petty before you judge. Hear me out. This is my reasoning. First, it comes across as just religious rhetoric, and secondly, it's more like a boast without outright boasting. To put it another way, is to say how proud you are of your humility. Hope you understand the point I'm trying to make. I am by no means against praying. What irritates me is the over-spiritualizing and or mystifying of biblical Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for that subject. I never considered it before, and what an eye-opener on what Paul prayed for, so different than today.
Well, thank you, Larry, for your email, and let me rip Larry live on the air. No, I'm just kidding. So Larry was saying, oh, Pam thinks I was just being a little too petty. And in some ways, I see what she's saying, but it's a good point that we get caught up with certain phrases and things. I just didn't, like I said, we were talking about Paul's prayers, and I went back and was listening to the episode, and I was like, I was talking about his prayers and his praying and all that, and eventually I kind of just went into his prayer life, our prayer life. This could help your prayer life. Right. And so I see what you were saying, but I really didn't know how else to say, except for it's such a common phrase, things that we've grown up with, and not saying that it was right, but you make a good point. But I was just trying to cover our life of prayer, just how we pray, how this might help our prayer life, our prayer closet. I know where that comes from. I mean, that's, Jesus tells us not to pray out in the public, but go into our closet and pray. So they just said prayer closet. And I get it. Most people that pray don't actually pray in their prayer closet. They don't have a closet. Now, if you watch War Room, she had a prayer closet.
Yeah.
And, go into your closet where no one else can see you. The point is that you do these things in private, and not to be seen of others. Now, there's other times when you pray in public because the church got together and prayed.
Right. Yeah.
But we don't do it so we can be seen and see how self-righteous we are. But that's not the point. The point was the words that we use and the over-spiritualizing. I don't know if we were over-spiritualizing this particular word, the mysticalness of it, the prayer life. I get it.
No. I didn't mean that you were.
No, I get it, right?
It just got me thinking about, we use these phrases and what do they mean? Why do we use it?
Yeah.
I mean, like the podcast, The Prayers of Paul, I never even considered that. And then when I heard him, wow, the things he prayed for, it was so different than what we typically pray for today.
Sure.
But he didn't have this sort of mystical aspect to his prayer, or, he didn't have this separate compartment of his life that he considered his prayer life versus his preaching life. And, it was all...
Well, he couldn't have a separate one because he never ceased praying. He
said,
that's
right.
Not to pray for you. It's like, wow.
Well, and that's the thing. I think we get caught up in the compartmentalization of our lives, in America specifically, in the Western world specifically, that we like to compartmentalize. Like, this is my Christian life. I go to church.
Yeah.
Then I come home and I put that hat away. Now I put on a different hat. I go to work and I'm not a dad at work. But when I come home, I put on my dad hat. Well, that's not how it works in life. You are a Christian all the time. You should have your Christian hat on at all times.
That was my point.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's a fair point, because our prayer life, some of us do have this concept that when I have my prayer life and that hour in the morning or whatever, but in Paul's life specifically, like when he ceases praying for, like, he probably was in an attitude of prayer all the time. And he might have been that creepy guy that was like, you're talking to him and then all of a sudden we're like, are we praying? No. Oh, I didn't know we were praying. Did you even say amen? Like, are we done praying now?
Right.
But but yeah, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I pick on terminology too. I didn't even think about it until you pointed it out, our prayer life. What about shindig life? Because we got that as a shirt, shindig life.
Yeah, that's right.
And we only do that at shindigs, though.
That's right. And that's only once a year. So
that's right.
I guess that can be separate, but no.
No, it's the over compartmentalization that this is my spiritual life. I was
just going to say that. You talk about, well, how's your spiritual life? Well, what does that mean? I don't.
Exactly. Like, I only do my prayer time in the morning, and then what? You're not a Christian the rest of the day? You don't even consider praying. You don't consider worshiping God. Your whole life is a worship. It's your spiritual life is your Christian life. Your life, that is your new life in Christ is Jesus' life. So we just get caught up with terms, and you have a good point there. I do think you're being a little picky though, because prayer life is it is what it is. But I get what you're saying. It's good to think about. It's a good topic, where we compartmentalize Christianity, and that is not acceptable. We are Christians 100% of the time.
Yeah.
How's your eating life?
That's it's pretty good, actually.
Well, good. Your cooking life, and we do get weird like that sometimes. So no, I'm glad you called us on it.
Well, I wasn't calling you out.
No, I get it.
It just got me thinking of how we use these terms, and they don't really have any meaning anymore because they just get tossed around, and nobody thinks about, well, what are you saying? Like, what are you saying your prayer life? Is that some kind of secret life you have that you're, or even the term like prayer warrior? I mean, I know what we mean by that, but it's like, really, what do you mean by that? Are you the secret superhero that you have a secret identity?
It didn't make sense, Larry. I know what you mean by that. Wait a minute. What do you mean by that?
You have to watch War Room to understand that.
But prayer warrior, I mean, maybe some people don't know what that means, and that is a good point. We use phrases.
That's not even in the Bible.
No, but prayer warrior sounds much better than the prayer of a righteous man availeth much, and I'm a righteous prayerer. I'm a prayer righteous man, and so prayer warrior. But I get it. It is someone who is constantly in a state of prayer, and I'm jealous of those people because I tend not to be. I try to be, but it's just, sometimes you just don't think about those things. And some people are very aware of those things. And I think that's a good challenge to me and to others out there, that we need to be more aware. Now that doesn't mean to like go into your prayer closet. Like, once again, you could do it in your around your family. Like, go ahead and just pray. Don't worry about it.
Right.
But you got us. I get it. It's phrases that we get caught up saying.
He doesn't like you saying.
No, man, it's all right. It's not. I know what you're saying. You're not picking on us specifically, but we do get caught up using these phrases, even when we speak Christianese sometimes, and
we do.
Like tearing down walls, and we like to put those in our songs, and it's like, well, what does that even mean? What do you mean tearing down walls? And it's like,
Right.
what do you mean? Don't question the song.
You got to think outside the box.
Yeah, you got to think outside the box.
Well, or like churches, they say come down to the altar. Like, that's a table to sacrifice an animal on. I don't think I want to do that. Yeah.
Well, if they do, we're going to have a barbecue. And,
Well, that's true.
But no, they're not.
But I don't want to be the one on the table. I don't.
They're going to be a living sacrifice, so that, holy and presentable. So yeah, that's the altar, right? But no, we use definitely words and phrases, Christianese as we call it.
Yeah,
and
it is, yeah.
I've been a Christian for a long time now. I've been raised in the church, so prayer life is definitely part of it.
Speak the language.
That's right. I speak good Christianese. So anyway, it takes us a while to work that back and try to correct some of our traditions and some of our traditions. It takes us a while.
Baby steps. Baby
That's
steps.
baby.
So we're working on it, though. So anyway, if you would like to ask us a question or about money or even about prayer, whatever you want to ask us, or if you just want to encourage us in some way or challenge us on issues or something, go ahead and email us at talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. That is talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. And you can check us out on YouTube, watch us, give us a like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. We thank you for listening. Sorry again for not being there last week, but hopefully we'll have bonus episodes to make up for that. We should have just put the bonus episode in that slot. But anyway, we didn't. So thank you for listening. And anything else you want to say, babe?
That's it.
Larry, you got anything, final words?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
All
Thanks
right.
for ripping me online or on the air.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we thank you for listening, and we will be back next week. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Mike Charleston Podcast.